And last but not least, in flow leadership in a nutshell, and this is used often by the teams, the flow friction analysis. If we're seeing anarchy on a team or project, man, they probably have the wrong vision. If we're seeing anxiety in the team or that the team members are anxious, that probably means that there's probably at least one person who's not the right fit for the team, and we need to figure out who that is. If there's confusion, most likely is because they didn't do their definitions. And if there's politics, without exception, that means that there's no agreement. And if there's chaos, that just means that the team's unable to deliver. And if there's division, then most likely, once again, that means that they're not able to drive because there's no vision or there's multiple visions. So that's basically flow leadership in a nutshell. Feel free to print these out. There's copies of this floating around the net. And remember, these don't do any good in the books or in the presentations. You need to take them, print them out, start using them in your teams, in your projects, in your programs, in your portfolios. And I guarantee you, if you start doing that and you do it consistently, and you follow what we've taught, you follow the path, you follow the patterns, most of the time, on the average, you're going to come out ahead. So that would be my encouragement to you, is actually give this a try. It works. This isn't theory. We've done this for over a quarter of a century. Over 25 years, Ted and I worked on honing this, and we've done project after project, case after case. By the way, I've recorded another series on why use flow, and it lays out all of the business cases why you would want to use flow. I can't imagine a single company or a single individual or a single team or any organization that wouldn't want to use flow in order to take everyone to the next level of performance and to try to get everybody moving the same direction and loving it. Stay focused on vision. Just want to say thank you. If you got this far, this is a lot of information. I know it's drinking from the fire hose. I know that it's very dry. If you had the stamina to make it all the way here, you're awesome. And, feel free to reach out to me. You can find my contact info on my website. You can find my contact info on LinkedIn. If you reach out to me via LinkedIn and just say, hey, I saw your video, I'd like to link up with you, just reach out to me, link up with me. I'll be more than happy to do that. So on behalf of Flow, I just want to say thanks. I'm going to go through these extra slides here after this now, but this is the end of the formal part of this presentation. Thanks. Okay. In addition, well, it's not 56 slides anymore, it's like 65. So I needed to update this. Some of these were still sort of work in progress. I had picked up some of these concepts at a conference I went to a couple years ago in the Czech Republic. This next one, it goes into additional information or additional ideas on the management consulting agile coaching figure 8 that I use. And this is what will drive agile purists nuts, because I believe it's a both and not an either or. It's both agile coaching and management consulting. It's not agile coaching or management consulting. It's both and. You need to be able to do both if you want to be a really great agile coach or enterprise agile coach. And so on the anticipatory agile coach side there on the left, we have the 4D model driving everything: define, distill, deliver, and drive. Same thing for operational excellence. You got to define your processes, and you got to distill them, agree on them, deliver them, drive them, make sure that they're happening. And you use the vision, strategy, people, tasks for both sides of the figure 8. So it's pretty straightforward. Agile coaching's on the left, management consulting is on the right. Now, on the left side, we talk about the ability to see. And so we're going to manage by pattern, and it's an achiever mindset. And so that's a vastly different mindset than those working on the operational side of things, okay? This is going to be not just the ability to see, since it's an achiever mindset, it's very mindset focused and mindset oriented. And you'll hear Agilists all the time talking about, well, it's not enough to do Agile, you got to be Agile. And so your ability to see is going to determine how far you get in being Agile. On the other hand, we have the ability to scale. And the ability to scale is the ability to manage by fact. It's an expert mindset. Okay, so what got you forward, being able to see, now you got to be able to scale it. And one of the best examples, even though I never worked with them directly, I know a number of the Agile coaches that were there at Spotify. When they did the startup, that was the left-hand side where they did the anticipatory vision and the innovation in order to be able to see the future of music. But what's interesting with a startup is it's entrepreneurial. Everybody does everything. But suddenly, as you start to scale it, as they scaled and went from 750 people to 3,500 people, all of a sudden, a whole different pattern needed to be put in place, and they had to bring in experts to help them achieve operational excellence. But at the same time, somehow try to maintain that ability to see. Problem is that as far as I know, I won't say every Agile coach left, but at least almost every Agile coach I knew working at Spotify when they were at 750 people, by the time they were to 3,500 people, the Agile coaches that I knew at that point in time were mostly gone. I couldn't think of a single one that was left that was still there. They all moved on and did other things. Because it's one thing to start up a company and be entrepreneurs and use Agile, and it's really hip and cool. And it's another thing to build an organization to 3,500 people that you want to take public and needs to be operationally excellent. It's two different things. And so you have to manage by fact, okay? And on the ability to see, if you remember, and if I said it, it's the ability to manage by pattern. Agile is recognizing patterns and being able to adapt to those patterns, experiment, and get more out of those patterns. Managing by fact, that's a different type of pattern analysis because you're running the business by the numbers. It's two different things. Then, as you're going through all of this, at some point in time, if you've done your transformation parts correctly, and if you're governing and watching the trends in your organization, you'll know when it's time to do creative destruction. Remember the Nokia example where they had in their hands, 2004, a functional production-ready prototype of a touchscreen phone with a glass face that was roughly the size of an iPhone 5, a little thicker, but roughly that surface area. They had it ready to go. And the same team that did the creative destruction to take them from boots and rubber tires for cars to cell phones, that same team, they got so caught up in operational excellence, they lost the ability to see. Their governance and their patterns and their pattern recognition in the transformation boxes, they didn't have any early warning system in there to help them understand that, hey, this is a major shift. And Apple gambled huge. They created an ecosystem that went with it and utterly wiped out and destroyed Nokia. But it was Nokia's inability to see that was the downfall of Nokia. It wasn't that Apple was like, oh, we had this great idea first. All of us working in the industry had the vision already around 2000 that you could take a cell phone and one of the Palm Pilots and merge them, and that was the next generation. That the board for Nokia decided, well, that's just too risky. We're not going to do that because we're operationally excellent. We own the African markets. We own the Asian markets. We own the European markets. We deliver 462 million units a year. We're operationally excellent. We're going to be the best. But Apple came in with anticipatory vision and in half a decade wiped Nokia out to the point where Nokia went into the history books, and that's where they live today as far as handsets go. So this figure 8, I believe, is a pretty good example of why first you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to do the agile coaching on the left. You need to be able to do the management consulting on the right. If you're not able to do those and continue to do those as an organization, you'll become part of that 25% of the Fortune 500 that's disappeared in the last decade. It's that simple. This is about the survival of your organization. Either you have the guts to make the right choices and do the right things, or you can just watch your company slowly die. It's up to you. You choose. As I shared way back at the beginning of this one, the Agile Onion tools starting point here on the right, where they have tools in the middle, then practices, principles, values, mindset. Personally, I think it's pretty much wrong. You don't start with the tools, but that's the problem today. Almost without exception, every company I work with, once they start to get a feel that, oh, Agile works, okay, what tool do we use? It's like, no. No. Please don't go there. The tool set should be put in after your company has a functioning agile organization. And as an organization, you can choose what makes most sense. That means you should start with the mindset in the picture that I have there on the left. We need to focus on changing people's mindsets. We need to help them distill new values and attitudes. We need to help them with the principles and the practices that they need to do to not just do Agile, but to be Agile. Tools and processes should come last. Absolutely come last. And yet the companies are out there, and it's like the Agile tube map based on the London tube map, where you've got all these tool sets out there. They wanted to be Agile and they ended up selling tools. And that is not going to make a company Agile. Mindset needs to be the starting point, and you're not going to change people's minds without having something like the 4R model, where you can go in and help them make new decisions based on new information. Nobody wants to change their mind, but most people are at least open enough to be able to make a new decision based on new information. That's just basic good sales technique. And that's a secret to most sales. This last slide, this was just the employee engagement from the Gallup poll back in 2019. Basically, only 13% of your people are engaged. 87% are disengaged, and or actively disengaged down there in the lower left corner. I think that was somewhere around 20%. And then like 67% were just disengaged. But either way, what's happened here is that, people's expectations aren't being met. And you have your expectations and then you have reality. When those match, you get the people up in the 13% in the upper right corner. When they don't match, you get everything else. Okay. And so you can have 80% of your workforce who basically is neutral to what you're doing and they just do their job. Or you've got that, small portion that are actively working against you to make your life miserable. And that's where their expectations, their high expectations, ran into low alignment with reality, and they just get disturbed. The whole point of transforming your organization and to use flow and try to bring people up the agile curve is to move that 13% out to the left and increase the size of that circle so that less and less of your people are disengaged and more are engaged. Some people felt that if you did the transformation right, you could get up to 80% of the people engaged. That's an 80-20 Pareto. Might or might not be true. In smaller organizations, I believe that that's possible. In bigger organizations, you're always going to have inertia. So there's going to be somewhere in between is the truth. But I do know, using flow, using agile, you will get a higher level of engagement. One of the companies that I worked with here within the last 5 years, they were doing these engagement surveys, and I'd seen it with companies that weren't agile. They reflected this 13%. One of the companies that I was working with that was doing agile, but we were helping them with an agile reboot, their engagement was up around 17, 18%. So right there you can already see, just using agile, you're going to get a 50% improvement in engagement, which is substantial, and the value add of that is exponential. So I know that if they had combined flow with that, based on some of the other videos that I've seen, you might expect to see 26% engagement or 39% engagement or even 52% engagement. You choose. But I know that somewhere out there is the truth, and that using the transformation things that we've shared in this document will help you get more engaged, happier employees that are adding more and more value to the organization. This was the last slide for this deck. Thank you very much for being with. Have a great one, and we'll see you on the other presentations. Thanks. Bye.